The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
1420 Sports Bar Podcast, for beer of sports talk and a whole lot more. Join host Brent Radlinsky as he bellies up to the bar and gets the conversation going that'll make you think you're sitting in your local watering. It's sports, beer, and shenanigans, so sit back, grab a few beers, and let's get in. The 1420 Sports Bar Podcast, for beer, sports talk, and a whole lot more. Tonight's show, as always, brought to you by SeatGeek.com, the SeatGeek app. Use promo code 1420SEAT at SeatGeek.com today and save yourself $20 on your first purchase over there at SeatGeek. Remember, you're part of the Belly Up Media Network. Go to BellyUpSports.com for all their great articles and other podcasts. And tonight we are joined by Gavin from the Up West podcast, Seattle Mariners podcast. First time in the sports bar. Gavin, behind the scenes, we got a lot in common apparently from down there in Seattle, up here in Alberta. How you doing tonight, Gavin?
I'm doing quite fantastic. Yeah, we got connected right away talking WHL hockey and also just some Western Canadian baseball league. So I was excited to be a part of the show, but also introduced right away with some connections.
There we go. It's kind of funny how it all works out. The baseball world is small, no matter if you're in the major leagues or down into the college wood bat league. We'll talk about that a bit later. Gavin, we'll get right into it. Actually, I want to ask you a question. I put it on Twitter earlier on today. Today, the Cubs played the Dodgers over in Japan. Do you consider today opening day, or is that a week from now? Because to me, there were just a couple of games that are going to be played over in Japan. I mean, it's 4 a.m. when they're on here. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't see it till I sat down to have a pint after work. I was like, all right, it's on. I knew who won, but I think it's almost sacrilegious that they do this. And opening day is opening day. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, no, great question. Because I actually I talked about this with one of my buddies it was about a week or two ago. We were just hey, what's actually opening day? The more I got to thinking about it, it's always a good thing when baseball's on, even if it's 3:15 in the morning. I know some East Coasters, they got lucky and it was at least at 6 a.m. So it's a respectable hour to at least watch some of the game. Me, I did the same. I waited and just watched the highlights later. I had some investment with Yoshinobu Yamamoto on my fantasy team along with Teo. It's opening day. Well, what I'll break it down with. It's opening day when your team plays. That's how I've always been about it. Now, most teams are playing next week, and that's my opening day. But it is never a bad thing when you got MLB playing for real competition. So that's my take on it. But also, hey, you can twist my arm anyway.
Yeah, I've always said, like, I'm a baseball dork from way back, and I've always said that opening day should almost be a holiday, the same way that Super Bowl Monday should be a holiday, and the way it is. But like opening day to me, it's opening day. Like, yeah, there was games on today, but they kind of get to me, they get lost because right now I'm watching Texas and Cleveland playing in a preseason in a spring training game. It's like, okay, so it's odd to me. It's just one, it's odd.
I am with you on that because it's like, okay, we're intermixing, spring training in between all this. Some guys are still, some guys still are 30 plus deep on their roster. They're still figuring out, some of the bubble spots and everything. And then you got Major League Baseball going on. What I will say is the fact that it's in Japan. That's a huge plus. I think each team, I actually had a conversation with this about, how you can grow the game. Obviously soccer being like huge across, multiple different countries and football just kind of being, America's sport, hockey being Canada's sport. Well, how can you grow this game, play it in more countries and find ways to play it in more countries? So the fact that they're doing that, big fan.
No, yeah, it doesn't hurt, and having the biggest star on the planet right now playing in his home country doesn't hurt. But for one of the biggest brands in baseball, doesn't hurt. I was listening to something on the way home tonight, and just like that, the Ohtani factor is so big, and you got to think that when they were playing over there in Japan, like how many jerseys were Dodgers jerseys, and then how many were Ohtani jerseys? Yeah, they got some other Japanese stars on their team, but that $700 million investment or whatever it was, it's got to be like I don't know how I got to this, but that investment the Dodgers made in that is so big in comparison. Like you've got to think, my God, the money they're making, the Dodgers are making over the Major League Baseball's making over there. It's all calculated and it's crazy. There probably
Yeah.
wasn't. It was 90% Dodger jersey, 85% of those guys or people are wearing Ohtani jerseys, and maybe 10% Cubs, maybe.
Yes, I agree. I think that's exactly what it's like. And yeah, the investment for $700 million for rightfully earned player. I think in jersey sales alone, you're going to come close over his tenure when you're finally done paying him, and all the deferment money that they're probably putting in some sort of bank and having it accrue interest. Yeah, I think it's worth it. I can't say if they're actually going to surpass that 700 and make money off of it, but the Ohtani, yeah, I'm just going to call it Ohtani, the Ohtani legacy.
I know exactly what you're talking
about.
Yeah,
yes,
makes sense.
The Ohtani legacy is going to live forever in LA, and you're going to sell jerseys years from now.
Kind of like we'll get into him a little bit, but like Ichiro is in Seattle there, and we'll get into the Mariners right now. You're out there with Seattle. You do a podcast about the Mariners, some other sports around the Pacific Northwest, but basically the Mariners. Like up here in Western Canada where I am, I'm not too far away from you when it comes down to it. And my sister lives out in Vancouver Island, so they get the Mariners on TV, and it goes and goes and goes. And I don't want to hack on the Mariners at all, but 85 and 77 last year had a chance to do a little bit of damage. Looking back to last season, they had some, the pitching staff is great. They got stars. What happened last season with the Seattle Mariners where it just didn't happen?
Yeah, it was a lot of the hitters that you thought were going to do well, like Jorge Polanco, Randy Rosarena when he came over, Justin Turner. Some of those guys stepped up, and they stepped up late in the season, which was awesome. But when you lose a 10-game skid, when you go on that 10-game, or when you have a 10-game lead and you just let it slip, it's really tough to gain the what's the momentum back in the clubhouse. I feel like I've been on winning teams, I've been on losing teams when I used to play, and when you're on a skid, when you're at the top and you fall that far, which 10 games, that's a pretty big drop. When you fall that far, it is tough to find and muster up the momentum to really move forward. And guys like Mitch Garver, guys like Jorge Polanco, not giving you exactly what the back of their stat card's giving you. It's it's just tough. I will say, moving from last year to this year, if you looked at this team through a vacuum and you only know the history of the 2024 Seattle Mariners, and that's it, you don't know anything beyond that, you're in a comfortable position, even with the offseason being as tame as it was, not picking up a ton of guys, just rerouting Jorge Polanco's contract to be a little bit favorable in the Mariners, Mariners' favor. Instead of paying him $14 million, they're paying him about half of that, and then another $5 million in incentives. And then Rowdy Tellez was kind of a hidden gem, which I think if they don't give him a roster spot, that's not the smartest move. But also, we'll see what happens come Sunday due to his contract deal. But yeah, if you look at this team through a vacuum from last year to this year, you can't help but think that the team chemistry built between last year and this year, guys couldn't get any worse. They played the absolute worst they could possibly do. There's a lot of positivity to kind of keep going forward. Kyle Tucker and Alex Bregman leave the AL West, and they find new homes and everything. There's a lot to be excited about, and a lot to be try and be positive on.
The thing about the Mariners is they're always kind of licking the jar. I like to say here, like just they're always right there, and then they just don't. And then they the 10-game slide. You go with it. The Mariners are going to Mariners, like the Mets are going to Mets. It's just one of those things. And you just go, why every year does it happen that way? And if they get a bloop single in Game 5 of that 10-game skid, it's just Like it's just one hit, and that's all. That's a great thing about baseball is that something can go sideways quick, and then something can go really really well the next day, and it gets forgotten about because it's that. I think baseball more than any sport, it's that 8 inches between the ears, depends on the size of your hat, that can really affect things. And when, like you said, when things start going south on you, it's hard to get out of that. And like tennis, that's tough in any sport. I mean, I played junior hockey. We had a couple of 15-game losing skids. You kids, I tell you what's tough. That's tough.
It's tough.
There's nothing you can do. You just don't know. You don't know what to do. A guy that you kind of thought that would have done a little bit more, maybe he'll get a little bit better this year, was because he was maybe got a little bit more press because the way he did it during the COVID playoffs in 2020 was Rosarina.
Yeah,
he did it against the Yankees and everything else. And he thought maybe he got a little more press because he played in Tampa. Were the expectations a little high for Rosarina, or were they where he didn't meet them, or where they're supposed to be? Or what's your thought on a Rosarina? Because I think he's a hell of a player. At the very least, he's a hell of an entertainer.
Yes, right. And we've all grown to love Rosarena. What I think happened was, and he's come out and said that he was, he was a little affected by the trade and the move and the uprooting from Tampa to, this new location because he got his start with Tampa, and he seems like a very emotionally, but good emotional. He gets very attached and he becomes very loyal. I don't know if you saw the World Baseball Classic when he was with Team Mexico, but he's originally from Cuba, and when he defected and became a citizen of Mexico, he fell in love with Mexico, and you see the loyalty that he brings to the table. So I know once we get that out of him, hopefully, if that comes. I think that's the next step and the last step for him to find success. Just be comfortable playing with the outfield that we have with Julio and Victor Robles. I think that played a lot of the factors, and yeah, I think it was the expectation for him coming in, what we gave up to get him. Aiden Smith, Brody Hopkins, and there was a player to be named later. I'm blanking on it right now, but what we had given up to get him. Yeah, the expectations were definitely high. We still had playoff hopes, and he came in. I remember he had a home run against it was the Red Sox, and it just wrapped around the foul pole down the left field line over the Green Monster, and then from there it was just kind of hit and miss. And he had some absolute no doubters, but he struck out a little bit too much. It just looked like he wasn't comfortable playing in Seattle. And I'm hoping it sounds like that's gotten better.
You talk about strikeouts a lot, and it's funny. I don't know how we just met 18 minutes ago, but I'm a big batting average guy. I'm a big on base percentage guy, not so much. But there's three stats that matter in my life. I'm 50 years old. It's batting average, home runs, and RBIs. You talk about guys striking out because I have a couple of guys in the team that I follow quite closely. They strike out a lot.
Yeah.
It's just a different question that we didn't really I wasn't going to ask you, but
Yeah.
where do you like? Because you're a baseball guy, I can tell. Like where do strikeouts matter in your world? Like when guys don't put bat to ball or get on base, don't even give themselves a chance to get on base. Where do you lie in the strikeout realm of worlds? Because I'm anti-strikeout. Like if you don't put the bat to ball, you ain't getting on base. If you strike out, like what's your thoughts on the what's your thoughts on the strikeout? That because a lot of people they don't seem to care as much anymore. They strike out 190 times a season.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I'm glad you said that because I am a little more old school in 2025. About 5 to 8 years ago, I was very invested in analytics and where can you find the hidden gems within the analytics? Where can you find the next the big thing that's coming through? But the more I see it, the more I love guys like Luis Ariz. The simple bat to ball skills is kind of that lost art of baseball. Your Craig Biggio's of the world. Granted, he had some years where he hit some bombs, but the simple bat to ball skills it's a lost art. If I can break it down as simple as possible, the guys like those, I mean, they're not going to maybe on their own win your World Series, but they are going to set the plate and help out other guys. Also, they're going to hit, they're going to give you clutch at bats. They're going to give you situational at bats. When, you got a runner on third with, less than 2 outs, he's going to find a way to put the ball somewhere and get the run in. The guys that are for lack of a better term, home run or strikeout guys, yeah, they might miss, and there's a good chance because they strike out way more than they hit home runs, and they find not success more so than they find success. So yeah, I'm a big believer in batting average, and my comrades that are also on my podcast are kind of the opposite, which why we make a good banter. I am more
Yeah.
the old school type, but I like a good mix. I think as long as you pass the eye test, the analytics help thrive what you're looking for in the in betweens. But the overall on base percentage, the slash line is a very good measurement, in my opinion.
Yeah, I got in a pretty heated argument with a guy who's half my age about this, and he's a coach of the college team. One of the assistant coaches. Well, if you're just putting the ground ball outs all the time, yeah. But if you, the more to me, I said like the more chances you give human beings a chance to screw things up, they will.
Yeah.
So if you hit more ground balls, if you put bat to ball, if something happens, there's a good chance that kid or that shortstop high when you get up in levels, they'll probably make the play. But in college levels, there's a good chance that kid's going to make an error. But if you strike out, you don't even give that team a chance to make an error. And that's my biggest thing. If you just strike out and strike out, I'm not saying just bunt to the pitch every time and hope. But like just putting the ball in play, I think you're bound to have more success. And that's just old man get off my lawn speaking, I guess.
I have a little bit of that in me now. Now that I'm a dad, I think I've gained a lot of that in the way that I kind of look at and view things. Now, granted, I don't judge other people. I think analytics, what analytics have done, and the deeper metrics and everything that people are following, there's a lot to be said about that. I have no animosity towards people that put a lot of stock in some numbers that maybe I don't put a lot of stock into. But at the end of the day, what I'm looking at are A, B, and C, and maybe some other guys are looking at X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, getting on base and scoring runs, it's hard. And like if you fail 7 out of 10 times, you're going to the Hall of Fame, right? So
Right?
it's kind of it's one of those things
That will
what makes baseball so great.
How many guys are hitting 300 nowadays versus 20 years ago?
None.
I just watched the 2001 All-Star game when it was in Seattle. And every last guy was 330, 350, 370. Ichiro, I think, was pretty close. He was like 390 something. You don't see that. And Luis Ariz was one of the closest ones to that over the past couple of years. So yeah, I'm in the same boat.
John Olerud chasing 400 like back in '93. Like that's crazy. And now it doesn't seem to matter because like it's just one of those things. Like the Mariners are right there. And I was on a show a couple of weeks back, and they were asking who's going to win the American League West and blah, blah, blah. And I said, you know what? I said the Mariners, and I'm not because you're on the show here. I said the Mariners are going to not now, then when. They everything lined up. They got a great pitching staff. They have a couple superstars. They have one superstar which you need on every team. They have some stars. Everything is kind of lining up for the Mariners. If not now, Gavin, then when? Are you in agreement on that?
Yeah, and it's the reason why probably 99% of our fan base, and I'd actually probably wouldn't be too wrong if I said 100% of our fan base was a little bit disappointed that we didn't go get a Christian Walker, that we didn't capitalize and really take this AL West by the bull, or by the horns, and really understand that we have an opportunity with a pitching staff that you are blessed from God with probably once in a lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing is, knock on wood, but you got to pray that these guys give you 30 starts each. And the fact that they gave us pretty close to that last year is just unbelievable. You look around the league, the Dodgers, even they don't get, a lot of health. They have health issues.
There's a reason why they went out and got 14 starting pitchers this year. Like there's a reason for that.
Yeah. So when you have a pitching staff that's built the way Jerry has done with the Mariners, it seems a little bit of a slap in the face when you don't capitalize on the areas that you actually need to grow and not just win the AL West, but go to the World Series for the first time in franchise history. I would have to say that most of our fan base, if not all of us, are in the same boat and saying, hey, this is the time to capitalize. This is the time to move and go.
And the thing with pitching, you're around baseball a lot, and you're one elbow away. You're one pitch
Mhm.
away from this guy being done, that guy being done, and then they're out. I mean, I know with my Yankees, like all of a sudden, 2 weeks ago, I was rainbows, unicorns, everything else, and then one
Yeah.
pitch on a Friday afternoon in Florida, like, oh, here we are. Like you guys have a staff that can do some damage. If one guy goes down, and you don't want to lose two and three guys, but you have some guys in the minor leagues, everything else. You have some pitching coaches in the minors that come on your show, and guys, it's such a fine line. So when you have a chance, and I agree with you. Like, why ownership didn't see this and say, okay, let's just spend an extra $5 million. So yeah, because people get lost in the math of it. Like, you're not spending 20, you're only spending another five compared to what you're already paying this other guy. So, like, yeah, 15 can go to 20. It sounds like a lot, but it's only another five. This is ridiculous, but it's
Yeah.
only $20 million that can put
Right.
you over the top. Like, it's only, and as dumb as that sounds, like, you buy franchise for $20 million, but
Yeah.
it's only
I
20 million, and the investment that you can make on 20 million to win a couple of rounds, and you just never know, because if you look at when the Cubs won in 2016, like, that fan base has been starving for one since the 1800s or whatever, 1900s, early whatever it was, and you give yourself a 10, 15, 20 year cushion if you win one. And why more owners don't go for it when they have a chance? I think it's crazy that they don't.
Yeah. First of all, I speak a little French, so I completely understand it and agree with what you said there. But yeah, and that's it might be a Jerry problem. Maybe it's not a Jerry problem. I feel like he's being handcuffed. Most of us guys behind the scenes that are talking, that have I have a few friends that have the the credentials to get behind the scenes and
Yeah,
and go to spring training here in Arizona and talk to those guys. And yeah, I feel it really does lead up to Jerry kind of being handcuffed by ownership. And we have 17 guys on the ownership, with Ken Griffey Jr. being one of those guys. Do I think it's Ken Griffey Jr.
I
that's
didn't know
screwing
that.
us over? Yeah. And he just came on not too long ago. Do I think it's Ken Griffey Jr. that's part of the problem? No. But I feel like with 17 guys that are trying to make a decision, with one of them being kind of in the majority and another one not being too far off percentage wise, it's tough to get 17 heads to agree on one thing. And I think that might be the ultimate problem, because all 17 of those guys, you put all their money together, I think we have enough money to go get some stuff done. But yeah, again, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. That's all I can guess as to what the actual problem is behind the scenes. Is you're trying to get 17 guys to agree on one thing. Hey, should we spend 15 extra $1 million on getting Christian Walker or Pete Alonso, which he would have been more than 15. But I think that's probably where the root of the problem lies.
I didn't. That's crazy to have that many voices and that many shareholders and everything else. So you think, wait a minute,
A lot.
they must need it for a reason. I don't know. But the business end of
Yeah.
things is always kind of weird. But that's odd. And you can't think
It's
it's Griffey, because I think Griffey did okay throughout his career. He might be able to buy that whole team by himself. I don't know what
and
the
he's
merits
well
of that
loved.
is worth, but well
Yeah.
loved, and you throw in the rest of the guys out there that might not be Edgar, and say, hey, let's buy this team. Like, you
Yeah.
wonder if why that doesn't have, like, franchises are ridiculously crazy, and
Yeah.
you're taking a chance. Like, something goes sideways for a couple of years, because you're not only paying for your players, you're paying for the hot dog vendors and whatever else is going around there. So maybe Griffey's just, okay, I have this much money to kind of burn a little bit, but I still need
Yeah.
this much to keep the wife and everything happy at home. But it's just crazy that you can't see the forest of the tree sometimes when it comes to baseball. And, like, sitting as
Yeah.
fans, we go, well, just spend money. Well, like,
Yeah.
I'm on a management level and a way different level of baseball, but well, it's not that easy, I guess. Like, you can't just go, well,
It's
here's all the money.
yeah. Yeah, and I agree. It's not that easy, especially when you got 17 guys trying to make that decision together. Understandably, everybody's kind of got their own seat on the table, if you will. Some people own a little bit more of the team than others. So, does their say mean more than Griffey, who's kind of on the minority part of it, which I think I want to say his is lesser. I want to say it's like around like 5% or something like that. But yeah, it just begs the question of what goes on behind the scenes. What are the conversations that are being had? Does this ownership group understand where we are as a franchise, that we have a chance to capitalize in an AL West that is kind of dying, or I guess very middling tier? And if they do understand that, what is their response to try and win it and go do something that the franchise has never done, which is even get to the World Series?
Do you think that anytime, like, you got to think, geez, like you have money, like the Rangers, they won a World Series a couple years ago, but they're not great. The
Yeah.
Angels are awful. The they're not even Oakland anymore. They're Oakland. They're Sacramento, and then you
Yeah.
have Houston, who's I don't want to say rebuilding, but regrouping. Like the Mariners have a real definite shot this year to do something, and to go out and grab a player. And then you look at the AL Central. Well, they're the Central, and they don't really do a whole bunch. And then you have the Yankees. All of a sudden, they're not as great as they were 3 weeks ago. Like, why the Mariners wouldn't go out and grab a player or do something and make a
Yeah.
deal, and or maybe there's something later on in the season. Okay, we're all of a sudden we're 30-10 to start the season off. Let's do something. Maybe that's what,
Yeah.
maybe they're like, let's just hold off, see where we sit, and then
And
a month or two in, let's not make some crazy decisions now. Let's wait a month and then see what we're doing, because that would be a wiser business decision.
yeah, and I think you touched on a really good point there. Is there's still between now and the trade deadline to still get something done. So with all the criticism that I've definitely had with the ownership group, with this offseason being very tame when it shouldn't have been, the positivity is still there. The growth opportunity, the opportunity is still very much there. The other part of that is, maybe they're saving all this money to pay Logan Gilbert and Cal Raleigh and extend these guys. But if they are, why haven't they done that already? It just seems a little bit odd that they haven't done that. Or maybe they're making this extravagant, gesture and doing it on opening day when Logan Gilbert, gets the nod for opening day. That seems to be the rumor around the mill is, oh, wait for opening day. You never know if Logan Gilbert and Cal are getting extended. But until that happens, you're wondering, what are we doing with this money? What's the plans with capitalizing when we can? And is there room to grow financially? I'll back it up with Ryan Divish came out and said that they were definitely in on the Vladimir Guerrero rumors last year.
Yeah.
And obviously he's not cheap. And if you go get a guy like that, you should probably look to extend him. So my thoughts were, for the right person, they'll go out and make that financial move. At least that's evidence has suggested that might be their move.
The Guerrero situation here, for like, we get to just inundated with the Guerrero because the Blue Jays are right across Canada, like, no matter what.
Oh
Sportsnet's
yeah,
right, no matter what. And the thing with Guerrero, when he basically said no to, I think it was, $600 million a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, it didn't surprise me at all. People are like, that's crazy, and I said, well, here's the deal: the the Blue Jays ownership offered, on this, quote unquote, they offered Ohtani 700. He was never coming up to Toronto. Never. Not net like never. It was just
no.
let's just make it look like we're trying something. The fan base,
Mhm.
they tried. And then they
Yeah,
offered Soto $700 million. Same thing. He was never going to. Cohen was going to outbid everybody by a buck no matter what, and Soto was going to the team that offered him the most no matter what. He was never coming up to Toronto. And so when it comes to extending Vladdy Guerrero Jr., I think Guerrero went, you know what? You offered these two guys who had no intentions of ever coming up here 700. You're going to give me 700, or else I'm leaving. Because, like, he'll be fine. If he never played another game in his life, he'd be fine. His dad did quite well. He's done. Like, let's not forget, Guerrero's been making $30 million a year for a few
they've been all
years
right.
now.
They've been doing all right.
He'll be okay. So I kind of laughed that people said that Guerrero's just being greedy. Well, yeah, because he's getting kind of shunned a little bit by the franchise that he grew up with. And for the
Mhm.
Mariners, that wouldn't be the worst guy to go out and grab because he's a great ball player, smiling all the time, and him playing with Rodriguez wouldn't be the worst thing in the world.
Well,
It's crazy.
Well, and to capitalize on your point, we talked a little bit earlier about straight, bat to ball skills, which I think Jerry does try to mitigate the strikeouts, and he looks for those type of players. Some of these guys that are coming up through the minor leagues, you can kind of see that he's rerouted and look for those guys. Well, we talked about Luis Ariz earlier. He is one of two players that had 200 hits last year. The other person happens to be Vladimir Guerrero Jr. So the bat to ball skills are 100% there. And yeah, the pure
200.
hit school. The 200. Yeah, I think he had 205, something like that, when Luis Ariz had exactly 200. I remember we looked it up
200
earlier.
hits.
200 hits.
Like
Yeah, since Ichiro went, how often does that happen?
each would have 200 by Labor Day, like whatever.
Yeah.
It's just nuts. It's crazy. The Mariners, like we said, they got a shot, and every team needs a superstar. Like the Yankees have Judge, and I think that Judge can still pull the Yankees over into the playoffs. Whether they're going to be win the division, that's not so sure because their pitching staff. But the Mariners have a great pitching staff, and they have a Julio Rodriguez. Is this team? Is it Julio Rodriguez or bust?
It is definitely hinged off of Julio. We actually had an episode not too long ago where we talked about, how does this team make the playoffs? And it hinges off of Julio being Julio. He's now well integrated into the MLB. He's now known as a superstar. He's definitely got to go prove it, but he is known around the league as somebody you got to watch. He is must watch TV. He is a household name for the most part. Now he's got to go and kind of collect the dollar bill and put pen to paper and kind of go prove it. And it's funny because he's put up great numbers. They're not bad by most standards. They're not bad, but when you look at a guy like Julio, who's supposed to be that 5-tool player, who's supposed to be kind of in that realm of Ken Griffey Jr. 2.0 in 2025, yeah, you're looking for a 40-40 guy. You're looking for Ronald Acuna numbers. We're looking for Shohei Ohtani-ish numbers, maybe not 50-50, but we're looking for close to 30-30 or 40-40 on a yearly basis for the prime of his career, and that's where it starts.
It all starts there. I mean, you need that guy who's going to hit you 40 home runs and get you RBIs and comes up to bat and knocks guys in when they're supposed to knock guys in. Yeah, everybody's going to strike out the way that it works now, but your pitchers can only do so much. Eventually, you got to score some runs. And
Eventually.
when money gets tight, and I'm with the Soto deal, I was never big on it because I have a
Yeah.
hard time. I just have a hard time giving a guy $50 million a year, or whatever it might be, who bats once every third inning and gets strikes out this many times and hits 280, and that might be just the old guy in me because but a pitcher I can justify that. Okay, he goes out every this many, he gets this, and it's just the impact that they have on a game in comparison to a guy who goes 1 for 4 some days, goes 0 for 5, and
Yeah.
might go 3. I've always been more like I'll give a pitcher some money, but giving a guy $51 million. What was when Soto got that deal? Did you just go holy excellent, or what was
Yes.
your thought when Soto got that deal?
Yeah, that was as much as I would love to have a guy like Soto on the team, a game changer, a guy that when we talk about Ohtani and him jersey sales and money potentially coming back and everything, Soto's in that realm for sure, but he's a little bit more one-dimensional than the likes of Ohtani. Ohtani was he had just as many bags as he has bombs. And so he gives you that. And then, when he's healthy on the mound, he gives you 100 miles an hour on the mound. So it seems a little bit worth it for what you're paying for. But yeah, I wouldn't have paid that. That wouldn't have been the big dollar. I think Vladimir Guerrero Jr. probably would have been my bigger dollar as far as the return on investment, what you're getting, all the good stuff. But, he was the one that was in free agency, understandably. Yeah, I don't think I would have paid him that much. Good for him. Good for the Mets.
Oh
I
yeah,
love.
geez, man,
I
take it.
love. Yeah,
Here's
I love
51 sheets.
Cohen
Yep.
and what he's. I love what Cohen's doing. I hope that other owners are like looking at him and saying, "Hey, man, you're not supposed to do this." Well, hey, I am. Step up or step out, and I'm hoping that other owners can kind of, maybe it's just my own ownership, that we can kind of see that ownership say, "Hey, okay, if we want to compete, we got to start. We got to start competing financially sometimes. It's not all the time, and it's not. We're not asking for Steve Cohen $300 million, but you got to step it up a little bit. So yeah, he paid. He paid for sure.
Yeah, when I first started this podcast in COVID, the 2020 there, the August there, and my wife said, "You guys start doing something." I said, "All right, well, whatever." Started a podcast, I guess, and that was right when Cohen decided to buy the Mets. And it was rumored a bit, and I said, "This is going to change the face of baseball forever. It's going to be a whole different thing because this guy's a fan, and he has $18 billion in the bank, like actual dollars." This is
He's
going
doing
to
all right.
change how things are done throughout professional sports. This isn't fake money. This isn't BS money. This isn't investors. This is one dude who loves a team and he wants to see his team win for the first time since 1986. And he's going to do everything he can do. Has he done enough? I don't know because the Mets are still the Mets, right? They're going to Met. It's just what they do.
They're gonna Met.
But I and you hate to see it because there's teams who don't spend. It always comes back to that. No matter what you're talking about with professional sports and ownerships, but I think, you know what, go for it, man. If you got it, do it. And if you want to see your team win, go for it. And like if you don't care how much you make or don't make or whatever, if you want to see your team win, I don't think it's great for sports, but I get it. I totally get it that he's doing it. It's better than the other side of things when you have the guy out in Oakland doing what he's doing, right? So
Yeah.
like which is worse? Like I'll ask you, Gavin, which is worse, Cohen or the guy out in Oakland, right? Like which
Yeah.
is worse for sports?
I think the guy out in Oakland is worse for sports because he's trying to lose. It seems like it could be wrong. Maybe that's not his mentality. Maybe he hates losing, but he's just taking a step back financially to set himself up well in Vegas. But if we've seen anything from Moneyball, it doesn't look like they've ever been about spending, and they've ever been about being next level when it comes to finances and competing on that level. And you got to go find a Billy Bean type that can find the nooks and crannies of players and be able to put them in and win, basically win on paper where other people aren't. He handcuffs guys versus Cohen says, "Hey, go win, go in. Here you go. Here's a blank check. Find me a W's."
And that's the thing that I think he gets is that nobody pays to see the home team lose, right? Yeah, you could
Mhm.
have baseball dorks like me and you who go X amount of times a year, but don't no matter what, just to watch a game and have a good time. But when you have the fringe fan only has X amount of dollars to spend, uh, I'm not gonna spend. I can watch them lose from home,
Yeah,
right? I'll do
right.
that instead for $10 and for a box of beers and sit at home and do that. So no, for Cohen to go and do, I don't think Cohen's. It's not bad for this. It's bad. Yeah, it's bad for the sport, but it's not bad for the sport. Like it's bad
Right.
for bad for business. Like, it's hard to describe, but
Yeah.
I just think that it's
Well,
and
and
every
you know,
every team has a chance to do it. 'Cause these guys all have so much money. I mean,
yeah.
it's
Well, and
crazy,
in a
man.
sport, you're a hockey fan. We got salary caps over there.
Yeah.
You got X amount of dollars that you are able to spend. Here's a sport that hey, no cap. Go ahead and spend as much money as you want. You'll get penalized after a certain point, but spend as much money as you see fit. And guys are doing it. And they're like,
Well,
oh,
yeah,
yeah,
you might lose some international picks and this and that. So you're just losing some prospects and picks. You don't even know what they're going to turn out to be. So who cares? Like
right,
win now. You win now. You're good for, like I said earlier on. You're good for 10 years with your fan base.
yeah,
Like how many
yeah.
teams
The
would
amount
like
of
how many
yeah, I
teams
was just
would
going to
like Mariners fans would love to have one, right?
right?
Go get
We
it.
just want to go to a World Series. We've never even done that. So just get us to a World Series. And then I don't know, maybe I'll pass away, hopefully, 40, 50, 60 years from now, and I can look back and like, hey, at least we got to the World Series. Never won it, but at least we got to the World Series.
We'll get into the playoffs now. Want you to dot at the end of this. Gavin, the Mariners make
Yes.
the playoffs if
The Mariners make the playoffs. Touching on what I said before, but I'll go deeper than what I mentioned before. Julio has to be Julio. That is, I think, the staple that needs to happen. Beyond that, the pitchers that we didn't have last year, Matt Brash, Greg Santos, and then Troy Taylor kind of being down right now. Having those capitalized on, because we had to have Munoz kind of step into a closer role when he didn't have a bad year, but he didn't have a great year the year before. He hadn't quite broken out yet. We had to have Trent Thornton kind of pitching some leverage innings for us. Gabe Spire kind of do the same thing. He had a little bit of a regression last year, but we had to have some like good pitchers, but not great pitchers, really step up and pitch in leverage situations. So if you can figure out the bullpen, get some more consistency from this year. They went out and got Ryan Stanek last year. I was a fan of picking him up. I thought it was a good move. It just didn't pan out, and it's one of those things where I applaud them for trying to fix that issue and mitigate that issue before it got worse. He just unfortunately didn't. He just didn't play well. And as a fan, I can respect that, right? It's what you had mentioned earlier when the Blue Jays, they're going and talking about getting Ohtani and making a deal. Well, the Mariners aren't even doing that for the most part. So when they finally do, as a fan, I appreciate that, and I can acknowledge that. Hey, they're actually trying to make that move. The other piece is just everybody that didn't play well last year. Polanco, Arozarena had a bad year, and Mitch Garver. If those three guys are going to be on the team for the year, just play 80% to your card. Just play 80% to what you can do. That's how they make the playoffs. They're not terribly far away.
no, I think they're in a good spot. Like I said, like I was on that show a few weeks ago, and I was like, no, the Mariners are they're in a good spot, and they have a chance to actually do something for the first time. No, not the first time in history, but like for the first time in a long time, and to not be, for lack of a better term, irrelevant. Like, and that's been kind of the Mariners thing for not a lot of their years, but like it's like, okay, yeah, they're good, and then they're just not, and they're never terrible, but they're just in 82, 83, whatever, and 500, and it's just and that's always been the worst thing. I like, even for no matter what sport you're talking about, the worst thing you can be is average, because then you get that middle of the round, the rung draft pick, you get the middle of the rung free agent. Just, I guess I'll go there and just get average money and whatever it is, and so the Mariners have a real shot right now, because they're not spending a bunch, and they can maybe that's what the ownership group's saying, like you said earlier, is maybe this is the long haul, and we'll spend money wisely when we need to. We'll see what we got, and if they can come out hot and win 30 out of their first 40 and for 45, what it might be, and you just never know. And I think that's something that the city would really get behind, because like I've been to Seattle a few times, not a few times, to go watch Mariners games, and when the Mariners are good, people go. Like they love it, and like it's our Mariners fans, as like, not probably not as passionate as you're a baseball guy, but when the team's really relevant, is a city behind it? Because I don't want to say they're the third or fourth, obviously they're behind the Seahawks, but then sometimes in a lot of cities, they can get behind some college teams, and they can get behind this and that. In the pecking order, if the Mariners are good, is the fan base like right there ready to go?
Yeah, and I don't want to talk smack on my own fan base, but we are a little bit fair weather. A lot of it has to do with a lot of transplants in Seattle, Amazon bringing in a ton of people, Microsoft bringing in a ton of people. In fact, a lot of us, including myself, don't even live in Seattle anymore. I haven't lived in Seattle for about 6 years now. I moved out to North Carolina to coach college baseball, and then moved over here. And a lot of my friends are now down here in Arizona. The map kind of folds over. But you get a lot of fair weather fans, but also, as soon, to your point, as soon as you start winning, not only do those fair weather fans turn into a little bit more loyal fans, but the loyal fans that have been there all along become diehards. And you see it very evident with Seahawks, Seahawks games and everything. This past year was a little bit different. And it's funny because Seattle as Kraken, Seahawks and Mariners, we're in that weird spot. Not good enough for a good draft pick, not good enough for the playoffs. It's and we've deemed, or I donned this term. It's called perpetual mediocrity, and it's
Yeah.
where the Mariners have been since pretty much 2002, besides 2022 when we finally made the postseason for the first time in 20 years. But yeah, the perpetual mediocrity. It's just, hey, let's be good, let's compete, but let's fall one game shy and get the absolute worst draft pick that we can get. It's just like, okay, turn a corner, turn a page, and just find the playoffs by accident one time. And I'm hoping that it's the Kraken, I think, are about to turn a corner with some of these draft picks that they got and some of these prospects that they got coming up. The Seahawks are kind of in, they're in reboot mode, not quite rebuild mode with getting Sam Darnold. And I think the Mariners are right there in the same boat. They're just a piece or two away from being very good. So yeah,
They're right there. The American League's up for grabs. I really believe that. Like it's right there. I think you got a lot of chances. Anybody going to beat the Dodgers when it comes down to a 7-game series in the World Series? It's that's tough to say. But like once again, you're one elbow away from it all going down the tubes. But the Mariners are right there. Like they're right there, and they good a shot as anybody in the American League. Talk about the American League West. I got my thoughts about Mike Trout a little bit. He's great. Like I'm not disputing that, but there's always a but when it comes to Mike Trout. Just hasn't, right? Just hasn't stayed healthy. Just hasn't done it. Kind of stays in a place where he can just be in the mediocre world, and I can collect a paycheck. And what's your take away his talent? What's your thoughts on Mike Trout? Because I'd like to hear from a different fan base. I talk to Yankee guys. I talk to guys. What's your thoughts on Mike Trout? Because I always like to hear. I know how great he could be.
Oh,
but
right.
But I haven't seen it.
It's kind of funny that you mentioned Mike Trout. I'm a fan of baseball. I'm a huge fan of Mike Trout. I think we're all in the same boat on that. He's a phenomenal human being. I actually, him and I are in the same class. We were both class of 09, and there was a perfect game tournament down in Florida that I went to, and I happened to cross paths with him, a couple other big names like Nolan Arenado. Mike Trout was one of the nicest human beings, and just approachable, but also not just not pushover nice, but just a nice human being, genuine human being, easy guy to root for. And the fact that he slipped all the way down to where he was in the draft that year, and just the success that he's had, man, just continuously easy guy to root for. Looks like he stays loyal to his team that drafted him. But yeah, that the health is definitely it's cause for concern. It's one of those things where you want him to, even as a Mariners fan, I want to see one of the greats be great. And I don't want him to kind of step off that pedestal. But over the past couple of years, it seems like he's on his back nine. And no matter how he finishes, whether it be tomorrow or 5-10 years from now, he's going in the Hall of Fame. There's just no doubt about it. The guy's an incredible baseball player, an incredible human being. Just as a fan of baseball, I hope that he can gain that ground again, and just finish the last however many years he has being as elite as he possibly can.
Do you think he'll ever, like, let's say he starts off the season with 20 home runs through May? Let's
Right.
obviously, but like, he starts off just gangbusters, and the Angels of Anaheim, Los Angeles, what do you want to call them this week? If they're 10-31, if he goes, you know what? Get me. Do you think he'll ever say, "Get me out of here. I need a chance to do something to solidify my legacy"? Because it's like you can have 100 zeros behind your bank account, and you can go to Hall of Fame, and your plaque's going to say did nothing, not nothing, but your plaque's going to say didn't win, not a champion. Do you think Mike Trout will ever say, yeah, maybe it's time to go?
It is 100% a relevant topic to talk about because you as a baseball fan want Mike Trout to do well, and going back home, even if you were to go to the Yankees or the Mets and be closer to home where he's at in New Jersey, uh, you wouldn't shame the guy for wanting to leave to go do that.
No,
I, I
good.
good, exactly, good for baseball as well. Uh, but you look at I equate it to Felix Hernandez. Felix Hernandez was in the same boat, Cy Young Award winner, played on a team that just was as hitting inept, just couldn't score runs, especially when he
Yeah.
was on the bump. Even his perfect game was a 1-0 game, and you're just like, okay, well, we love this franchise. Even through the thick and thin, mostly thick. He didn't want to leave, and he was loyal to the Mariners. He didn't end up leaving until the Mariners kind of had to, he was at the tail end of his career, wasn't quite a very good ball player anymore. But Trout is somebody that I think doesn't. I mean, he values winning. Don't get me wrong there, but I think he might value the longevity of tenure with the ball club, and that the ball club that gave him a chance back in 2009.
Yeah, there is that.
So it goes both ways. I say if I lean one way or the other, I say he's comfortable in Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Too many names. But and it's
I'm
funny
so
because
old.
Los
They were the
Angeles Angels.
California Angels when I was a kid. Yeah.
Yeah,
Jeez.
they need to go back to that because Los Angeles Angels is redundant in itself.
Yeah.
It's the Angels. So yeah, he might just be comfortable and enjoy being a part of one team for forever. Edgar Martinez was another one that stayed true to his team. Cal Ripken was another one. Does he want that legacy versus taking a chance on going to the Yankees or going somewhere and trying to win? Yeah, there's two legacies that could be, because when I think of Cal Ripken, you can only think of one team. You can only think of the legacy that he had and the amount of games, the record that he broke from was it Lou Gehrig and everything. And there's for us sports fanatics and us baseball fanatics, I think there's something to be said about staying with the same team for the entire career, especially in 2025.
Yeah, because not many guys do. They see a next dollar sign. I was talking to a lot of people like how many more zeros do you need or whatever it might be. It's just it's weird. If you can't make 50 million a year work, then there's something there's something wrong with you, not with the team. Uh,
Yep.
Go back to
Yep.
when you lived in Seattle, going to a Mariners game, and I've been in, like I said, a number of times.
Yeah.
And Sluggers is one of my favorite little spots. There's a Canadian $100 bill on the bar, on the mirror behind the bar there, that me
Yeah.
and it's quite funny, quite a funny story that we got new Canadian money. It's plasticky, and he said that we ripped it. You can't rip it, and buddy, yeah, it's up there at the bar at Sluggers. Uh, Take me through a game day experience down
Yeah.
to what I'll always call it Safeco, just because that's what it
It's
was. Uh,
I have a shirt that it says I'm still calling it Safeco.
there you
Just so
go.
you know, you're not the only one. I think most of us agree it's still Safeco. We say it on
Yeah,
our podcast all the time, and we just don't even correct ourselves now.
it's
Yeah,
Safeco.
it's always Safeco. No, you're right. Sluggers is a great spot because that was my spot until I want to say 2017. There was this new kind of and I was a little bit younger at the time, and a place called Flat Stick Pub, and they have it's kind of like janky mini golf that's in there, and they got all the breweries that are in Seattle that are all on tap. I think they had
Yeah,
like 50 or 60 on the time. And I'm a big IPA drinker. I'm a big
yeah,
craft brew type of person. And they have my all-time favorite, Mac and Jack's. If you ever go back and you've never had it, Mac and Jack's is my favorite Seattle beer and will always
there
be
you
my
go.
favorite Seattle beer. But from there, me and the boys would grab a couple beers, play around a duffel board or mini golf, and then we head towards the stadium because it's about a half-mile walk from that pub.
Yeah,
We might, depending on how early we get there, we might hit another pub or two, like a Sluggers, and just grab a quick one, and then keep on heading towards the stadium. and the Triangle Pub is usually the last spot we
Yeah,
head.
yeah. No, I've
It's
been there.
yep,
I've
it's
spilled a few
just
in
a
there. Yeah,
little hole in the wall, but just an
little's
absolutely
an understatement.
yeah, little is an understatement. It is the corner of that street.
Yeah,
But there's one thing I always do whenever I go to Seattle, and that is get a Seattle dog. And if you're not familiar, it is they grill the toast, the hoagie. They do that pretty well, and then they put the brat in there, and they put sour cream and grilled onions on it, and it is. In my opinion, it's better than any other dog out there. But
yeah.
I'm a little biased when it comes to that. And then from there we head into the game, and then grab a couple more hop knots or whatever they have in there. If I can find Mac and Jacks, I'll get a Mac and Jacks. I saw it's no longer being sold at the stadium, which is insane to me. But yeah, and then if you go up to the 300 level right field, if you go up there, you'll have the best view of the game and downtown Seattle. It's
Yeah.
absolutely gorgeous. And in July and August, those are the two best times you can possibly go to a game. So that's usually my trip with my boys.
No, the best thing about Seattle, you walk into that ballpark and the garlic fries, it blasts like no other place. It's like wow, okay, then all of a sudden you want garlic fries for the rest of the game. But the pen out there in left field, that's an
Mhm.
awesome atmosphere. All the high top tables and everything. A friend of mine, his one of his college buddies is the bullpen catcher for the Texas Rangers. What a job that
Yeah,
is. He plays catch for a living for almost
awesome.
25 years now. So it's kind of like, hey, what are we doing? Playing catch, man. I just what I do for a living. So it's
Playing
what he,
cash, man.
so we were able to talk to him when he was playing catch and warming up a pitcher, and just an awesome atmosphere, and how it's just a open air bar, people not really watching the game but watching the game. And it's just it's to me it's a perfect baseball atmosphere out there because in general people, yeah, you want your home team to win and enjoy it, but you kind of watch until you're not really watching. As soon as the ball's hit, then people start watching,
Yeah.
and that's what the pen is out there in Seattle, and the different breweries that are out there. No, I think it's one of the best. Like I think I've been to 25 different parks over the years,
Oh, right on.
and some that are closed down. They're not even around anymore. But that's one of my favorite spots is out there in the pen in Seattle. It's no, because it's right off the street. You go
It's
up the stairs, you're there. It's
and
fantastic.
this is my unbiased opinion. I've been to a handful of parks myself.
Yeah.
PNC Park is gorgeous. I don't know if you've ever been to a Pirates game, but PNC Park is elite
One of
tier.
my
It
best
is
friends,
up there.
he lived out there. He says it's unbelievable on how great it
It
is.
is unbelievable. That stadium and that view with the yellow bridge and everything. It is
Yeah.
gorgeous there. San Diego and San Francisco are probably up there as well. And then if I'm staying unbiased, I got probably San Diego is my number one as far as just everything that the ballpark creates. And then they got the building down there in left field. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then I got Seattle number two, and then PNC number three, and then San Francisco number four. But everybody I've talked to has got those four somewhere in their top 10.
San Diego is actually my number one. I got fortunate to go down there once, and it was unreal. You're just roaming around downtown. All of a sudden, you're in the ballpark.
Yeah.
It's just great. And then
Yeah.
they used to have the beach in center field. They got rid of that, but the wiffle ball park, and it's just the views and everything. It's amazing. I couldn't believe I didn't expect it. And it's awesome
Yeah.
ball in San Diego. Yeah, it was funny when I was there. I checked into I think it was the Hilton or something, not just around the corner, and they took my credit card and whatever it was. I don't know what the deposit was, and I said, if I burn this place down, there's enough on that credit card to take care of this place. You better get ready for a good time. So it's a lot of fun. That San Diego's a great park, and everybody who's ever been there just loves
It
it.
is.
You've been watching your Mariners for a long time. Who's your all time favorite? Who's not Ichiro? Or unless is it Ichiro? Or like who's your favorite of all time?
So Griffey is he's the all-time favorite. And that's the expected answer, or Ichiro or Randy Johnson.
Mhm.
When I get asked this question, I always throw my all-time favorite, but I also love throwing my most favorite obscure Mariner, the one that maybe was a little bit behind the scenes.
Yeah.
In 20, he actually had 2 stints with the Mariners. Michael Morse is my favorite obscure Mariner, and he's also my favorite obscure baseball player.
Yeah.
It was, I want to say 2009, 2010. We had just shipped him out. It was a trade. I can't remember exactly the details of it, but he went to the Nationals, and I was a fan of him. He was somebody that was like, oh, wait and see how he does. I came up as a shortstop and then moved to the outfield and then first base, and uh, went to the Nationals, and he batted over 300 and he had 30 bombs. And I was like, well, there you go. There's another Adam Jones. See you later. And then he made a comeback to the Mariners in 2013. It was my senior year. And man, the guy was electric. He had 6 home runs in the first month. I was all fired up. And then Tanner Shepard hits him with a fastball up on the hamate bone, and he's out for I think it was like 2 months, and he never came back quite the same. At least with the Mariners, he went to the Giants and did some cool stuff. I think won a World Series in 2014. But yeah, that's my Ken Griffey Jr. is the obvious answer.
Yeah.
But I like giving a layer, another layer to it, and Michael Morse is my favorite obscure Mariner.
Do you ever have a moment like it might not have been a championship moment or a big moment or so or because I always laugh like this. Some of my I've been to Yankee Stadium a number of times and like yeah you see this whatever, but there's some moments that stick in your head a little bit. Do you have one at Safeco that you were there for that might not mean a hill of beans to anybody else? Like you were there with some friends or maybe by yourself or with a couple, just with one other guy or girl or whoever. Is there one that sticks out in your head that you go, this was awesome? Like one of those
Yeah,
moments.
it didn't dawn on me till later because this happened when I was 11 years old. And I actually have two. I have two moments that I can kind of touch on a little bit here.
Yeah.
The one is first one's Mariners related. The second one's actually not Mariners related, but the first one being Mariners related. I was 11 years old. It was 2001, and the Mariners won their 116th game. And I
Mhm.
didn't understand the severity of it when I was 11 years old. But as I grew older, you look back and you wonder how a team can win
What the
116
hell? Yeah.
games. And I happened to be there for the 116th win. So that was a very special moment as I look back, and
Yes.
just understanding the severity of it in the moment, and just seeing the whole crowd kind of losing their minds, when we won the game and everything, and just
You're 11, just one other hot dog.
yeah.
Whatever. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And granted, I was a big Carlos Guillen fan at the time. So I was watching the players, and it was still just baseball to me. And I loved the game. I had a passion for the game, but I didn't understand the actual severity of winning 116 games. And you look back and you're just like, how do you win 116 games in a season? Even the Dodgers, I don't know if they could pull it off. If
No.
there's a team that could do it, it would be this Dodgers team, but I don't know how they do it. 116, you play those 162 games over again. It's just not happen. Um, that and then another non-Mariners moment, same year, 11 years old at the time. Barry Bonds was my favorite player. To this day, he'll probably be him, Hank Aaron, and Ken Griffey Jr. They're all kind of grouped in the same.
Yeah.
But at the time, I was the biggest Barry Bonds fan, and I was at the game when Barry Bonds hit number 73. Or actually, sorry, when he broke the record. When he broke the record, which what was it, 72 or whatever McGuire's was, 71. And
178 of that. Who knows back then? Yeah. They're leaving the
and I
park
happened
at
to
such a
be
pace.
I
Yeah.
happened to be at the game when they put it on the big board, and we got to watch it, and it was just it was electric. It was just absolutely awesome. So those are the two my two favorite moments in Mariner in Safeco Field.
No, it's crazy how you like there's some moments that might not mean nothing to some people. You know, yeah, it's just fun. And that's the great thing about the great game of baseball is that there's so many moments and even if you're not a huge baseball fan, I was talking to somebody the other day about everybody in some way, shape, or form has played baseball, whether it be softball or kickball or whatever it is, and there's in school, and they've all had that moment. And not everybody, like I never played football in my life. It's not a big thing up here where I am.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever played hockey in your life, but everybody at some time has has played some form of baseball, and so everybody kind of has those moments, and the people get to watch it and they get to be a part of it, and then when they're at the game, they get it. Like that, and that's the thing. That's the thing. Like my wife, she gets sick of me talking about baseball so much, but she picked
Same.
me, whatever. So it's one of those things. But but then she gets it. Like she gets it that everybody uh, has had a chance to be a part of it and see something. And they're all like up here in Canada when the Jays run that run in 2000, was it 16, 17, when they like
Yeah.
that bat flip that
The bat
Bautista.
flip.
Like it was unbelievable, and like I remember being against, like, because I'm old school, right? One of those things, and then like when he first did it, the first thing out of my mouth, swear word, swear word, swear word, just run, right? But later on that night when I was watching the highlights again, I went, I get it, like I get it. Like I'd rather not see a guy showboat, but and show somebody up. But man, I get it. Like when
It
you do
was
something like that with the crowd and the way that inning shaped up, I get it. Like, man, swing it, dude. Like just do whatever. Like you just
it's
did something that every kid dreams about or thinks about. And I think that's the great thing about the game of baseball is that everybody has that moment, whether it be in a little league field or a softball field or a college or whatever it might be. Everybody has that little chance in baseball, making that great catch. And I think that's the great thing about baseball. Yeah, it's crazy you get to be part of those moments in the big time, like you said, when you get to see those things. Like, what the heck's just going on here? And you can look back all those years later and go, that's pretty
It was
cool.
a special moment. It was a
Yeah.
special moment that you realize it's going to be etched in it's going to be etched in Major League history forever. You know, they're going to show highlight tapes 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, and that bat flip's going to be somewhere. It's going to be somewhere. But yeah, I agree. It's one of those special moments.
Yeah, it's fun to think about those things. Like one of my favorite moments, like when Yankee Stadium is, I wasn't even in the ballpark. It was raining cats and dogs, like it pouring on a Saturday night. And I was like, I'll try to stomach it. And I finally seventh inning, I said, screw this. And I went across the street to Yankee Tavern, watched the last couple innings over there, and I was saying to grabbing a beer from the bartender, and I said, hey, and the guy's name was Johnny. I said, hey Johnny, if Teixeira tears into one of these right here, Yankees win this because they were losing the Red Sox. And sure
Oh
enough,
yeah.
Teixeira hit a grand slam in the bottom of the ninth. And I was across the street at a bar, and that's one of my favorite Yankee Stadium moments. I wasn't even in the stadium at that point. But it build up things, right? It's it's such a great game that when people appreciate it, they get it. And it's too bad that it kind of, I don't think it gets a bad rap, but it kind of gets left behind a little bit with the way sports is nowadays. Do you think baseball? We'll get you going here because we're kind of
Oh
talking
no,
baseball
you're good.
for
You're good.
15 hours if you wanted to, but
Same. Same.
do you think that do you think baseball's in a good spot, whether it be in college, minor baseball? I know some people have some thoughts about travel baseball with kids. Is baseball in a good spot, bad spot? Is it in a rough spot? Like, what's your thoughts on where the state of baseball is, not just with the youth of Canada and America, but with just with people in general?
It's not in the greatest spot. Um, I think that's it's I don't want to knock what's going on. Like the World Baseball Classic that just came around not
It's
terribly
awesome.
long ago is awesome. Stuff like that is growing the game. Um, the new changes, as a baseball purist, I guess I can call myself
Yeah,
the pitch clock. I'm not a fan of it. I understand that we've sped up games and we've seen games now, 2 to 2.5 hours. And I guess that works for the one percenters, the people that are just,
yeah.
there to kind of do their thing. But I mean, I also like, being able to have a couple hours to drink and being able to, not,
Man, my
seventh inning
heart
comes
right
around,
there. Yeah.
right? The seventh inning comes around and, you got to wrap it up with everything and get your last call in. But, the old school way would be, be you get 3 hours with the boys and everything. But the stuff that I'd like to see change or just grow is college football, college basketball. They get they get on national TV. College baseball does not, and it
We don't get
is
nothing up here. Nothing. I love it.
yeah. And it's and I I got one of those the Fire Sticks and everything, and we're able to get ESPN Plus and some of those other stuff that we can actually watch a lot of those games. But it'd be nice if they could make that change and get at least a college game day where they're throwing on a good Friday night matchup in the SEC, or just bring awareness to college baseball more, and then more at the youth level. These teams like Five Star and the Mafia and all these the dirtbags that are just like the big teams that have powerhouse players from all over the nation. Well, I mean they're not playing for hundreds of people. Like no one's going to these games except scouts and parents. So kind of like we were talking before we got kicked off here. I'd like to see something like the WHL or the CHL, if you will, in youth baseball, to where kids are getting drafted at 14, 15 years old, and then, coming up and playing on an elite team in front of a handful of fans. So when they make that jump either to the pros or when they make that jump to college, they're used to playing in front of, fan base, and also, just being able to have that team camaraderie and having that, the next levelness. I think what the CHL has done is leagues above and years in front of some of the things that you can do in baseball and actually enhance the game. So those are really the ways that I'd like to see the game grow. Beyond that, obviously, throwing baseball in different countries and being able to. I had a suggestion with one of my friends on one of our podcasts that we said, how about you just have a sister city like. Seattle has a sister city in, Berlin, Germany, and you change over, one of their soccer stadiums into a baseball stadium, and every other year you play a series out there against a team, and then the next year you go to their sister city, which may be in Japan. Doing stuff like that was what I thought would grow the game internationally. The other part would be adding a team in Vancouver. I'm tired of Blue Jays fans coming to
Yeah.
all the
I've been a
games and
part
just
of that, Gavin. I've been a part of that a couple of times where the country of Canada invades Seattle, and Safeco
and
becomes the Sky Dome for a weekend. It's
it
great
is
for
so.
Jays fans, but
And
yeah,
I love that camaraderie. But man, am I at an away game at home?
every
So
time,
I
and it ain't
give
close.
props to all the Canadians that come down and support our boys and come to those games just to support their guys. But I'd love to see a team in Vancouver, BC. I've been a big advocate for that. A couple different reasons. I think it forces the issue for logistics in Major League Baseball, to where the Mariners now have a team that's right up the road, and they're not traveling to, I think it was Oakland, now it's Sacramento, is the closest team, and that's a good 12-hour drive because I've done that drive before.
You would have
Yeah,
two instant rivalries too for the Mariners. And you'd have the rivalry with the Jays, no, and then you'd have the rivalry with Vancouver for the
yeah,
Mariners fans, like instantly, and then the Vancouver
instantly,
would have two instant rivalries as well. Like and it's a big enough. The problem is the real estate, is where to put the ballpark and everything. But you know what?
right, yeah,
Come up with the plan and then figure the rest out later. Like just
right.
we
You
just
got
like
the
figure
fan
it out.
base.
Yeah, yeah.
I
People
had
love
Jordan.
baseball. Like,
Yeah, I had Jordan Cowan on. He's the hitting coach for the Everett Aqua Sox,
yeah,
the high A team, and he was. I asked him, where's your favorite place that you've played in minor league baseball? And he mentioned when he played up up there in at the Vancouver Canadians. He goes,
yeah.
they packed that
Matt
ballpark, and
Bailey,
I'm
yeah,
like,
awesome.
yeah. So it makes sense that you could put a team there. Now Canada's got East Coast team and a West Coast team, and you got a good rivalry going on there. And you got pretty much all of Alberta that would probably show up for that and be a part of that fan base. You probably got all the way to Winnipeg, unless you get some loyalists that would
Yeah,
just stay Blue Jays fans. But yeah, I think it'd be good for the game of baseball to grow that way.
I've had dozens and dozens and dozens of guests from the United States on my show. You're the very first person to ever mention Winnipeg, of all places, on the 1420 Sports Bar podcast. That's funny, Winnipeg. I don't know if you've ever been to
Yeah.
Winnipeg. I've been there a few times, but 1991, I was there. We were carrying on a little bit, playing hockey out there and drinking and whatever. I've never been so cold in my life. Like we were waiting for a cab on Portage in Maine, and holy diamond jubilee! It was awful how cold it was. Like, yeah, just brutal. Yeah, terrible. No, you mentioned the thing about like not be able to watch college baseball here, like where you aren't enough, and then we don't get it at all unless you get, like you said, the Fire Stick, and that's one thing we got with Leverage Bulls WCBL is that we regroup with players pretty much every year. You know how college summer bat baseball works. Yeah, we get
Yeah.
people like coming back for a couple of years, sometimes 3 years, not very often. And that's one of the things we struggle with is our fan base. It takes them 10 games to get to know who half our guys are because they don't get to watch baseball. Like they don't get to watch college baseball enough. And then all of a sudden you're like, so yeah, you can promote it on your Twitter account or your Facebook or whatever else it is. But if they don't get a chance to watch these guys, it takes 10 in a 28 game home schedule. It takes 10 games to get to know who these guys are, and then well, that's it. So there is a
Yeah.
struggle with it too, and I think baseball does miss out on that situation where they can. Why not promote? Like not everything has to be about making a few bucks. Why not just put it on TV? Find sponsors.
Right.
Find a way to do it. Like it is, and it's not like we had some guys that from Canada who end up with scholarships who end up playing for the Bulls or throughout the WCBL that their parents don't even get to see them play because it's not on TV enough. And I'm sure it's
Yeah.
the same way in the States. It's just not accessible enough because it's not marketable enough for the
Yeah.
networks. It's too
I
bad.
have I have a handful of former players that are all, spread throughout the country, and it's tough to find those games. I was able to watch through the Fire Stick. I was able to watch one of my former players I think it was a game tying or no, sorry, it was a go ahead home run against LSU, and he
Yeah.
plays for Mizzou. And he's been kind of a backup for the first couple weekends, and I finally got to see him play, and boom, hits a bomb. And I was so blessed and lucky to be able to see that. But yeah, I mean, and to your point, those kids go up there. I actually sent a kid to the Swift Current as the 57s.
Yeah.
I sent a young man up there 2 years ago, and he loved it up there. But a lot of these schools are they're not all D1 that these kids are coming from up there, and so some of these schools, even Americans don't know where some of these schools are. I think when Gonzaga made it to the national championship in basketball a couple years ago, it was like the most searched. Where is Gonzaga? And even people in Washington State didn't even know where Gonzaga was.
Yeah.
So yeah, to your point, it would grow the game from that level, and that's what I love about the CHL. These guys from when they're pretty much 15, 16 years old,
Yeah.
and you see them grow throughout the major juniors there, and get drafted in the draft and follow. I love the way that they set that up where they can get drafted but stay with their minors team or stay with their college. And yeah, the way hockey has it set up, I think, is a way better system, in all honesty.
Yeah, I've wondered that myself. Like, why? Like, hockey does it pretty good that way. Is you sign a contract, you still go back to play junior. Like, why other sports don't do that? Like, I've always wondered that. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, if you get drafted and yeah, if you don't play, you don't get paid. You might get your signing bonus,
Yeah.
but now it's NIL money. So what the heck's the difference? Like,
Yeah,
so like,
exactly.
yeah. So I get my signing bonus, but I go back and play college football or whatever and get some seasoning because I think it does a lot of harm to a lot of kids that, especially in football, where all of a sudden you're 23 years old and some great big 6'5", 400 pounder is going to chase you down and kill you when
Yeah.
you should still be in college and learning a little
Yeah.
bit and learning because these guys' careers get cut so short because of it. It's just it's. I mean, we could solve all the problems in the world of how amateur sports should merge into college, merge into
Well,
being
and you probably
professional.
saw the news about the WHL cutting ties and saying, hey, if you want to go play NCAA when you're aged out, you can go do
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Uh,
So like
that
actually, because
opens the
a
door.
friend of mine, his son has played in the Western League for 3 years now as a goaltender, and now he's got a chance to go. Now he signed a letter of intent to go and play college somewhere. And
I love
so
that.
I think it's fine. Like whatever. Like if go
Yeah,
and keep playing, and you
yeah,
have a chance. And is it going to harm some other programs around a little bit? But it also makes all this pay to play stuff you got going on. It gets rid of that a little bit too. So I think
yeah,
it's if a kid can excel and a kid can extend his career a little bit. I was talking with a guy a few weeks back, and how these kids who college kids whose careers might end up done in college, and how fortunate enough they are to play. I don't know how old you were when you were done playing competitively, but he said that kid got to play till he was 23. How many
yeah.
people get a chance to say that, right? And you're like,
No,
that's a very good point.
that's
Like
a special thing.
most kids are done when they're 17, maybe
Yeah,
18, and then they might, and then some play college, and then that's it. So when you get a chance to play to 22, 23 years old, that's special, and you got to be pretty damn good to play to that age. And I no, I just think it's how we don't get to see it enough, and it's yeah, we just we don't get to see enough. It's crazy.
it is. 100% too. Yeah, I played till I was 23 years old, and that was a very special thing. I guess once more, I know I'm hyping myself up here a little bit. I'll
Oh
say
no,
this as humbly as I can. I'll say this as humbly as I can. But I ended up winning a national championship to finish the career, which was awesome. With the you ever heard of the Seattle Studs? I'm not sure if you ever heard of them, but we go to them the NBC World Series, every year, and we ended
yeah,
up winning it for the first time in 2013, and that was the end of the career. I hung the cleats up, and man, what a way to go out! It was just absolute stellar way to finish the career.
no, it's fun. I mean, you get to look back on those things and you smile. And I always laugh at I I get a little bit of pushback from the office I work at about travel teams and blah blah blah, and parents who pay a bunch of money. And I said, like, I think the one thing that's missing a little bit in amateur sports is that there's all these travel teams, and kids don't get to play for their community enough anymore. And like 50 years from now, nobody cares except the guys who were on that team. And if you're sitting around the bar room having a beer, remember that the story will be better, obviously. But do you remember that time back in 19 whatever, or back in 2013 or whatever it was, and you're 40 years down the road? Those are the things that actually matter, because those are like, those moments matter because they're actually things, right? Not the fake ones that get some travel team that got put together for a week and a half. I don't know. It's weird. It's sports is just different now. It's really it's hard to put together. Yeah, it's weird.
Muted myself, forgot about that. It is. Uh, yeah, and it's just a lot of cool memories that you're able to kind of go back and talk about. Like you had said, you're with the boys 20 years down the road, and you're able to recollect. And some of those stories, they'll get far fetched the older you get. I'm already 10 years deep, and the stories are already getting far fetched.
Oh yeah, I hit three. I went 5 for 3 with 9 home runs. Yeah, sure you did.
Yep.
Whatever. Yeah, just funny,
Sure.
just stories. Gavin, we do this thing around Spit Stadium at about the second inning of every game. We call it 3 easy questions. You can't get them wrong. Real simple
Yeah.
stuff. It's all a matter of opinion. Like, they can be wrong in my opinion, but it's one of those things. Are you ready to go? 3 easy questions.
Yes.
Is a hot dog a sandwich?
That's a tough question. I'm gonna have to go with no.
I don't think so.
It's different. It's its own thing in my opinion. And you could probably bend my arm to there's people out there that can convince me otherwise, but to me, no.
Not a sandwich. Okay, there you go. What's your favorite song? But what's actually your favorite song?
Ooh, favorite song. Oh, of all time, it's got to be Freebird. That's probably my favorite song of all time.
Yeah,
Understandably, the Americans were playing it when they scored against
I
Canada,
know,
so
I know,
I
I
don't
know.
mean to rub it in, but
Oh no, I'm fine.
it is it is probably my favorite song.
What do you tell people your favorite song is?
Oh, what I tell people, I try and stay as current as possible.
Yeah.
I try and find something that's it's new that I like. There's a band that I've been. It's a guilty pleasure band. It's Electric Callboy. We Got the Moves is probably my favorite, and it's a wild song. So if you listen to it, just be
Yep.
prepared. It's a wild song. It's got a little bit of screamo. It's got a little bit of techno, but it's one that just gets me hyped up.
Yeah, it's funny. I asked that question some of the kids around or the players for the Bulls around the park, and I said, "What's your favorite song?" And they tell me something. I said, "What's Ash's favorite song?" This is their story, and they asked me. I said, "Do you know who Huey Lewis and News is?" They're like, "No, I don't know who Huey Lewis is." I was like, "Okay, I get it. It's one of those things." And lastly, but not least, who makes the bed every morning at your house, and does it happen?
It was my wife, and then my wife did a really good job of training me. So if it's me, that's last out. That's how we've been doing it. Last out of bed makes the bed
Every day?
every day.
Yeah, that's solid. That's solid. That's one of
Yeah,
those things.
we
If you
try. You know,
if you come
it's
back and your bed's not made, like then you got to do it when you're ready to go to bed. Yeah, it's just do it in the first thing in the morning. That's a solid move. No, Gavin,
it
this is a
is.
lot of fun, man. This was good. Like I reached out to you on Saturday night and just wanted to because I've been listening to your guys' show. I saw you on Twitter and
Yeah,
Mariners stuff, and you don't get enough. There's not enough Mariners content out there. Like there
yeah.
really is. I look for it, and there's not enough Pacific Northwest stuff. And no, I really appreciate what you guys are doing up there with the Up West podcast. It's
Hey,
fantastic, and
thank you. Thank you so
keep
much for the support.
keep rolling, man. Like just keep going through it, and just remember, it's fun. It's not a job.
It is, and that's why we do it. The numbers, if they come, they come. I don't care. I'm just having fun talking Mariners with the boys.
No, have this is great. Let everybody know where we can hear your stuff and what you got going on.
Yeah, so we got on all platforms now. That was fairly recent. We're still fairly new. We started in beginning of January, and we were just on YouTube. And I was also, just trying to be as funny as I can, throwing as many memes out there on Twitter and or X. It'll always be Twitter to me,
It's
uh, but yeah, now we're on Spotify and we're on Apple Podcasts. So whatever fits your fancy, you can listen to us either there, or if you like, seeing a face talk as well, we're on YouTube at just Up West Sports, a Mariners podcast.
No, it's a lot of fun, and don't worry about subscribers. I was told that if you do YouTube Shorts and you do this, you'll gain 1,000 subscribers tomorrow. It takes forever. No, I said
It takes forever.
it's not a thing. It's not a big people see and watch and listen. And no, you have a great show, and your passion for baseball and you and your co-host definitely it comes through, and your Mariners passion is out there. So keep up the good work, and I appreciate a lot to have you on
Brent,
as the
thank
season
you.
progresses.
I really, would love to come back on, and obviously, the invitation is going to extend back out to you. I'd love for you to meet our guys,
Yeah.
Ty and Kyle, and would love to have you on. So we'll definitely get you on, and we'll make that happen.
What we'll have to do is do a WCBL recap with how the Brooks Bombers are doing. We got talked about it
Yes,
off the air there and everything else. Crazy how
absolutely.
small the baseball world is. We talked about it earlier. And anyways, the 1420 Sports Bar podcast for Beer Sports, talking a whole lot more, brought to you by SeatGeek.com, the SeatGeek app. Use promo code 1420SEAT at SeatGeek.com. Then you save yourself $20 on your first purchase. And remember, everybody, it doesn't matter where you are, it's who you're with. And we'll talk to you tomorrow night.
Thank you, guys.